Today it's kind of a lecture slash demonstration on arirang, the representative folk song from Korea and beyond. And I'm going to subtitle this presentation as kind of a song of diaspora, not only to tie in with what our topic is today at the workshop, but because of what it actually represents for a lot of people inside and outside Korea. So I'm going to talk really briefly about the history, the etymology of where arirang came from, where scholars think it came from, where a lot of people think it's how it fits into Korea's national identity. Regional diversity, I think that a lot of the times the arirang that is most famously known to foreigners or to the Western world is a kind of a tempered, very toned-down version of arirang. There's many different kinds of arirang, and we're going to talk about three in particular today. I'm also going to talk about its international status. Korea, now that it's reached its status as a developed country, has been seeking to promote its cultural heritage, namely arirang. They're trying to claim it as a uniquely Korean folk song. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of that and what it means. And then we'll look at the song and the lyrics, and you're all going to learn it with me. Yes, I'm an experienced music teacher. So, and then if you want to pass it on to your students or friends, or if you want to sing along at a party, you can do that. So yeah. So it really falls into the category of world music and history, and what is known as ethnomusicology, which is a little dash of music history with a little anthropology thrown in. I call it the song of diaspora because people, as we saw in many presentations today, we saw a lot of Koreans who left their homeland with not a lot, either not really by choice, by circumstances, political situations. And so what they could carry was language, food and customs, but also things like stories, narratives, and especially music. I think that the power of music is a little bit more easier to recall than just like trying to gather materials to cook food or like fabrics for clothing. You can just share music more instantaneously, especially if you're far away from your homeland. So yeah. So arirang is not a specific song, but a collective name for the songs with the words arirang and arari in the refrain. The refrain is probably the most constant thing about the song, but the verses are interchangeable. They can be freely composed. There are many variations according to localities, dialects, and time periods. It is the representative song of Korea. It's sort of like America the Beautiful, but America the Beautiful was composed. Arirang was not. It was orally transmitted. So it is, in essence, a definitive folk song. Scholars believe that there's about 36,000 variations in about 60 versions within Korea that they could keep track of. But if you think about the versions of arirang that were sung by people in Northeast China or Japan or in Russia, the numbers can compound very quickly up the tally. So the version of arirang that we know today comes from this silent black and white film made by the director Mi-Eun in 1926. It was about the life of Koreans in colonial times. It was a lot about suffering, and it created a national sensation because at the end, when you play a silent film, back in the days they had an orchestra or like a band that would play along, just doing like Foley sounds and things like that. So the band would prompt an accompaniment that the audience would sing, and they would sing arirang, a version of arirang that Mi-Eun, the director, composed for this film. It's a little bit different than the arirang that was floating around in the collective memory, but he had written down a score. And this is called the 본조 arirang, and it's the arirang that everybody knows. It's the one that's in triple meter, like Silent Night. This is the 본조 arirang that everybody knows. It's in the pentatonic scale. It's in triple meter. And this is the arirang that is most widely known and disseminated. But as a song of diaspora, it became a symbol of the home country for a lot of people. And even though it can kind of sound cheerful because it's a pentatonic scale, it carries a lot of themes of nostalgia, pain, sorrow, being ripped from their homelands, longing, distress. It can also have joyful connotations as well. For example, Japan, 100 years ago, was interested in Joseon as a tourist destination, which we saw in one of the maps today. The Japanese people decided that this is a very good tourist spot, let's make a map of it, and they would go. And so in the early 20th century, when Japanese people would go with phonographs and record the sounds, they brought back arirang, what was being sung over there. And it became a popular song in its own right in Japan. They just made new lyrics for it, and then later on they replaced it with the original arirang lyrics, and it's widely known and beloved in Japan. There's also a rich variety of songs in the Joseonjok, which is the Joseon tribe of people who were living in northeast China, and also some versions that remained in the memory of the Goryeo saram in Central Asia as well. So, musical elements. Folk music and songs were performed and written for the common people. It's called 민속악, and folk songs is called 민요. It's the Japanese/Korean equivalent of the German word Volkslied, 민요, folk song. And then Korean music has a very complicated set of rhythms. In Western music, we either have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, like dum, ba dum, da 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 di dum, dum, da dum, da 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 dum, like that. That's Western music. In Korean music, it revolves around a very complicated set of rhythmic patterns, because rhythmic elements can either be long or short. So it's called 장단, which means long, short. So I'll show you an example of that. Etymology, arirang, as far as I can tell, it doesn't really mean anything. If you read various books, some books will argue that it is the name of a queen, Aryang, and that she died in a tragic way, and her lover like scattered her ashes and sang this song about his lost lover. So it's Aryang becomes arirang. And then some people might think that alli means to hurt, alta, so something that's painful. So that could also mean arirang. I think scholars now, linguists, consider it, I like this word, a scat. You know, there's a lot of nonsense words that are used in popular songs, just for the sake of it. But what is really important is ari and suri. Those always have to be in the song for it to be a true arirang. The verses can change all they want. So that's the rough translation. Some people call it arirang goge. Goge can mean a hill or a pass, just something between mountains. And it's sort of related to the shijo that Mr. Brian was doing earlier, where you have a couple of verses that set up something, and there's a twist at the end. It's like an O. Henry novel. The last line, 심리도 못 가서 발병난다, is sort of like a soft curse. Like when you curse someone, when God curses Job, Yeah, 10리는 못 가서. 리 is a distance unit, like miles. So for the man who deserts me, I hope his foot falls off before he gets 10 miles out, you know? But it's also like a curse, but at the same time, on the opposite side of the coin, it's like, I hope he doesn't leave. It's a kind of a grasping kind of lyric. So it's very funny. I think you can read a lot into these short lyrics. So yeah. And then I'm going to play some video examples because Korean traditional singing, vocal production is very different from Western style. So if I tried to do it, I think I would break my voice. So I just wanted to explain to you what you will hear and what you will see on the screen because I'm going to throw up some musical scores. So 시김새 is a kind of musical style. So in Korean traditional music, pitch is not just one note. There's no like da. It has to be da. That's a note. For in Western ears, that's many notes that flutter back and forth, sort of like what you see notated. We call it in Western music. We call it vibrato for the voice, for the instruments, and stuff like that. So all of these ornamentations and decorations, and you will sort of hear the singer throwing her voice, sort of doing like a Mariah Carey move when she's like goes into head voice really quickly and drops back down to a chest voice. It's a kind of a vocal technique that a lot of folk music uses, not just in Korea. And then you'll hear the melody in pentatonic scale, which is a very simple scale. I think that's why it's so easy to remember the song. And then that's a written notation of 장단. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. That's how 장단, that's like one pattern, but they can be 아리랑, 쓰리랑. And normally when you sing 아리랑, you would have someone on 장구, which is the Korean percussion, like give you the beat, drop the beat, and then a singer would sing. In some of the video examples, you're going to see a performance that was clearly made for a television broadcast. So there's going to be like an orchestra of musicians, but it's not really authentic. So I'm going to talk about 3 versions of arirang that come from 3 provinces or regions in Korea. One is Jeongseon or Gangwon arirang. Gangwon-do province is actually the top left province. Jeongseon is another area. Mi-Eun refers to the part of Korea that my parents are from, Busan. And then Jindo is the southwestern, the former Jeolla, the Jeolla province. So they all have very, very different styles and interpretations of arirang. And scholars think that Gangwon-do arirang is where it originated, and it became Milyang arirang, which became Jindo arirang, but it's very hard to say because if something is orally transmitted, it can just disseminate and disperse anywhere. So this is the Gangwon arirang. It is notated in Western style, and it's supposed to be like on the little on the slow side. I'm not doing it justice, so I'm going to have the most famous Korean kugak singer in Korea right now. She's like 20 years old. I'm going to have her sing that for you. Yeah, her name is So-hee Song, and she kind of debuted in Korea as this like big Korean traditional music prodigy. So I hope it's not too loud. Whoop, and the sound's not working. you heard the refrain, ari, ari, suri, suri, and then she goes into a different verse. I'm just going to quickly point out some of the instruments that are on stage. On the very far left is the komungo, which is a kind of a zither that is unique to Korea because it has fixed bridges that you smack with a wooden dowel. On the second from the left is the kayagum, which is sort of like koto, or the Chinese zither. I think it's 10 or 12 strings. There's another zither. And then there's the daegum, which is a large bamboo flute, which can have a mechanism for making a metallic sound with a bit of film placed over it. And then on the very far right is the tangu player. Usually when you see someone sing arirang in the traditional sense, you would only see a singer with a tangu player. PD as well. Yes, that is this little lady over here. Good catch. So she's going to sing the verse. And if you want to refer to the score in front of you to follow along, it'll be, I think, the third line, roughly, because again, she's ornamenting it a lot. Okay, so that's the Gangwon arirang. It's a little bit slower, a little bit lilting. Here's the Milyang arirang, which comes from the Gyeongsang-do province on the southeastern part of South Korea. And it's very, very lively. And I'm going to show you how she sings this one. So musically speaking, this one has a lot more range. The Gangwon arirang is just sort of like stays in like one small range of notes. This one is like arirang city sing, and then she jumps up really, really high. And that's a kind of a musical characteristic that a lot of people associate with people from Busan. We yell a lot. And so, and the rhythm is a little bit more uneven. The Gangwon arirang is like ari, ari, suri, suri. This one is ari, arirang. Suri, surira. Ara is like front heavy. So it has a little bit more of a bite to it, I guess. So that's the Milyang arirang. And then next in your sheet is, I think, the most famous of the regional arirangs, which is the Jindo arirang. Jindo is an island on the southwestern part of Korea. It is actually where the ferry incident happened a couple of years ago. But that island was a part of a different kingdom during the Three Kingdoms period. So it's considered one of the more like isolated parts of Korea. So a lot of people, when they look at the evolution of arirang, they pinpoint to this example as being something that you can say is uniquely Korean, because this place was so isolated that it couldn't have interacted with or mixed with a lot of different versions. So we're going to listen to this one. I'm going to actually show two versions of this one. One is this lady, same lady, singing it, and another one where a teacher is teaching her students how to imitate this traditional style. Cool. So the reason why this arirang is very different is that it actually changes the verse. The original arirang that we heard in the two previous versions, the refrain just says arirang, arirang, arirang. But here it says that arirang is happening. Arari가 났네 is a very special way of talking about arirang as a feeling that overcomes people, that overwhelms people. And the verses talk about like having uncontrollable amount of tears, and so it refers to a kind of like a spiritual awakening that a lot of people can be overcome by during periods of hardship. It's both joyful and sorrowful. It's kind of very confusing. It's almost like trying to talk about Han, Korean Han or something like that. I'm going to show you a different version, which I think will, because this is, again, a mic'd version. It's not that representative of. And here she's playing the puk. So this is how traditionally arirang would be sung. The refrain is sung by everyone. The verse is sung by the leading master or the teacher or the artisan or someone who just came in town with a book and wants to play. So yeah. Yeah.
Always female singers?
No. One of the things, so Korean folk music was sung by anybody. You could be a woman, a man, but to perform it back in, I think, until the 19th century, it wasn't performed for anybody. Everybody just sang it. Once they started to professionally perform folk music, women started to perform it more because there's a part of Korean tradition called shamanism, where shamans in Korea are predominantly women. There are male shamans, but they're a minority. So for a woman to go out and perform, you either had to be a shaman or you had to be a folk music performer. It's a kind of a weird thing. But yes, they're predominantly women. Jongak, the Korean classical music, court music, was performed only by men for a long time. So, yeah.
So when I lived in Korea, someone explained the arirang as the way they translated me to understand it in the English context is kind of like la-di-da.
Mm-hmm.
La-di-da-di-da.
Yeah.
The songs were composed, there's all this heartache, and then there's like pragmatism in some way, but it's also the pragmatic side was you sing it casually because you don't have time to really stop and compose the song. So
Yeah.
it's meant to be something that you do while you're working or moving from place to place. That's the oral tradition.
Yeah, it dispels a lot of heartache. It's like cathartic in a way.
Right.
Yeah. But I think la-di-da is, I haven't heard that example before, but that is perfect because it's la-di-da is it's like a bunch of nonsense syllables. But yeah, no, that's really great. Okay. So the way that arirang is presented today in Korean culture is like if you see anyone who's Korean and ask them what arirang is, they will give you a spiel. They will sing it for you. They will try to make you learn it, like I'm gonna do in a little second. But in Korea as a whole, this arirang is being claimed as a kind of a national symbol, and the way that it's played out in the international arena is that it's used in a lot of nationalistic events, especially like the Olympics, the Sochi Olympics, which is, I think, a really great way of exerting cultural diplomacy because you can't really sing your national anthem when you go to a different country where it might be frowned upon. But because Korea is trying to win over a lot of countries because of its growing economic power, because of Psy, Gangnam Style, in order to promote Korea, they have turned to arirang as a song of cultural diplomacy. So one of the, I think, really nice examples of that is at the Sochi Winter Olympics. They had a preview of they handed up the torch to the next host, which is Pyeongchang in South Korea in 2018. So this is the closing ceremony. And we're on commercial for some reason. Okay, here it is.
의수화가 석창우 씨입니다. 두 팔이 아닌 의수로 스모크로키라는 자신만의 화법을 통해 세상을 놀라게 한 예술가입니다. 하얀 설원을 상징하는 여백에 이제 국악소녀 송소희가 등장해서 아리랑을 부릅니다.
So this is like a brief example. It's the same girl singing. She's like a huge star now. But as you can see, it's just arranged very differently, like almost like a cinematic event. This kind of folk rhythmic song can be like it's very flexible, and people can make it whatever they want it to. For example, they can teach it to a foreign choir. This is a choir in Spain that's singing Milyang Arirang. I just love that last shot. There's like women dressed in hanbok and like men dressed in tuxedos, and there's a guy playing changu with the Korean hat. It's like amazing. So yeah. Any questions before we get into the deep and dirty stuff? Yeah.
So I'm curious too, everyone in the room, if anyone ever played in band or orchestra, played the piece variations on a Korean folk song,
Hmm.
which I discovered in a recording that we did in 7th grade, which is a very orchestrated version of Arirang.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
then all of my nieces and nephews who are just graduating high school, they've all played it at some point between grade 6 and grade 12. They all knew it.
Right.
As variations on a Korean folk song.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if anyone ever played it in band or played it in choir.
Really quiet.
I think it's a very popular, like a standard that you would learn in band class in the United States.
Wow.
At some point.
I guess we never did that in orchestra. Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and then I looked up a recording of it. It was the New York Philharmonic when they played in Pyongyang about
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Mhm.
That's the piece that they did.
Yeah.
So it was like representative of another state.
Yeah, and North Korea has its own versions of arirang as well. I didn't find any audio samples of it, but I remember seeing booklet of it's a state-sponsored booklet of about 44 arirangs, just arirangs in a North Korean book that somebody had gotten out for archiving. I don't think, and some North Koreans do sing the bonjo arirang style. It's like the most widely disseminated version of arirang. And actually, when the Koryo saram, when they were deported from Russia Far East to Central Asia, and Professor Chung mentioned this, that their language was banned. So was the song. So a lot of ethnomusicologists note that while in Northeast China there are many variations of arirang, over the years there's not a lot of variety of arirangs from Central Asia, even though people continue to know it and sing it. They just did it in fear of persecution. So it wasn't widely shared, and therefore it didn't evolve or adapt and diversify as most orally transmitted songs do and should. So, yeah.
Are there subversive ones where somebody changes the words to use the same melody, or?
No, I don't think so, because it's arirang kind of falls into a category of songs called taryong. It's like a ballad or an anthem where it's like the song that you sing to get something off your chest. And I know that Korea is not the greatest country known for irony, so I don't think they've subverted this genre just yet. But there are some very fun, like rock and roll renditions. And once you hear that pentatonic scale, you're just like, yeah, I know what song this is. But yeah. So, yes.
Well, I was a little off, but it kind of reminds me of like Danny Boy to the Irish.
Yes.
Where it's like this folk song
Mhm.
that's incredibly sad,
Mhm.
you know, but people keep singing it.
Right.
And
Mhm.
it means something to the community, kind of as the Irish done that, as moved around.
Definitely. And also, the Irish were also a colonized people.
Yeah, well, that's when I was in Korea. Somebody referred to Korea as the Ireland of Asia.
Yeah.
The people that wanted to do their own thing kept getting screwed over by the others.
Right. Mhm. Yeah, that analogy is, I think, was in a paper too, because Japan's reasons for colonizing Korea wasn't a race thing. It was like, we just need to make these people better, just like how the British were thinking about the Irish, not so much the Americans with the Africans and so forth. But anyway, yeah, I think Danny Boy is a great example, but there aren't that many variations of Danny Boy, which is something that keeps arirang surprises me with, that how many renditions there are. It's just 5 notes, but that you can do so much with. And it's and I know that the Ponzo arirang is very famous, but I just wanted to introduce these regional ones. These are the most famous ones even within Korea, but not a lot of people know the other versions of arirang, and even through all my research, I couldn't find audio examples or video examples. So it's something that we know kind of exists in multiple forms, but that we don't really have access to. So shall we learn the piece? Or does everybody know how to sing it? Okay, so on the back of the presentation is a score. It's right before the green tab. Yeah, so this is the bonjo arirang. I wish I could get my own drum and teach you the jindo arirang, which is really, really fun and very danceable too. But, all right. Oh, we should do the lyrics first. So we'll just do a call and response. I'll say it and then you repeat after me. 아리랑, 아리랑, 아라리요, 아리랑 고개를 넘어간다. 고개 is past, 넘어간다 is to go over. 나를 버리고 가시는 님은 심리도 못 가서 발병 난다. Okay, and I think we're all familiar with the refrain. So. Very nice. All right, cool. Very good. All right, that's it for my presentation.
And again, this one is the bonzo.
본조. Yeah, you'll recognize that it's 본조 because it's like long, short, long, short. Like it'll start off this way. 아리랑, 아리랑. You can almost like draw it, you know, like the shape of a hill. Whereas the 강원 아리랑 is a little spikier. The 밀양 아리랑 is just lots of fun. And the 진도 아리랑 is a lot of dipping kind of motions, so very, very different ones.
So nobody owns the copyright. Everyone's got their own. The sense of ownership is this belongs to the people, and I got mine, you got yours, and they're all
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you went to like a karaoke place, it would probably be this one, or would you have a bunch
Yes.
of them?
Mm-hmm. You would not really see something like 진도 아리랑, but because 진도 아리랑, how do you say? The people of Jindo really did a great job marketing their place, and one of them was just to disseminate 진도 아리랑, and it's really catchy rhythm. So yeah.
Couple things. So this same teacher taught me about Mabida.
Mhm.
She was a third grade teacher, and the city where I lived, all students had to learn traditional instruments of dance or singing. So she had her third graders compose arirang about being in third grade, and then had a little concert at the end of this.
Wow.
So super adorable. And then they had students playing the traditional instruments.
So about the grade, you mean they changed the words?
Yeah, they made their own song about like,
They could do 아리랑 아리랑 아라리요, 아리랑 넘어간다. It was like my apple is so, you know, yeah.
There's now I have homework, or I have to go to after school hagwon or something, or it's hard to make friends. Or
Mhm.
I hate having to study when I really want to play. Or
That's great. That is a great lesson plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was really, really good. And then the other, I have a male Korean folk singer that I really like named Jang Sa-ki.
Mhm. Mhm.
I would recommend. He has some really great kind of commercialized versions of arirang.
Yeah. I've noticed that on YouTube and even on Naver, which is like the Korean Google, it's very hard to find traditional videos, like a video of a traditional performance. Everything is mic'd and dolled up and camera ready. And I wouldn't say authentic, but they just kind of give you that kind of feeling, but it's not very authentic. The classroom video that I showed you would be something a little bit more authentic, because that's what is taught and orally transmitted from teacher to students who study Korean traditional music. But for the show and stuff like that, with the lighting, yeah, exactly. So, yeah. All right, cool. With that, I'm gonna go do a quick presentation on the other resources that you can find at the NOM Center, some of which had been shared with earlier. I know some of you are loyal fans of the Nam Center, and some of you might be new. I just wanted to point out some resources that we have for K through 12 teachers. This is not exhaustive of all of the activities that the Nam Center does. As Mr. Bryant demonstrated, we offer a travel grant to the Korea Academy for Educators, which takes place, I believe, every summer in LA. And it's a competitive grant that we give to one Michigan educator. There's a flyer on the next page. I just want to touch on the fact that we have a Korea Kit, which is available year-long, a program called A Single Shard, which is the title of a novel by Linda Sue Park, and we do a project in collaboration with the Museum of Art here. So the travel grant, this is a flyer from this past seminar, and if you apply, airfare, lodging, stipend, most meals are covered through this grant. Even if you don't get it, reapply or just definitely check out the actual cafe seminar. We get a lot of great feedback from them. And then if you have any questions about this, I think we start taking applications in the winter with the deadline of May. Yeah, May or March, one of the M months, yeah. Korea Kit is something that we offer free to teachers. We're currently organizing the Korea Kit. It includes cultural items, books for all ages, books on how to learn Hangul, how to write Hangul, vocabulary flashcards, Korean games, kites, all kinds of goodies. So if you are interested in bringing Korea to your classroom but don't have the physical resources, you can always borrow it from us. I think we just ask for shipping costs. Just a deposit. Okay. And then we will ship the items to you that you can use and share with your students. We've had a lot of teachers take books from the Korea Kit and create lesson plans around it, or families who wanted to get their children exposed to cultural items. So this is another resource. And A Single Shard is, again, the title of a novel. It's for, I guess, grades 4 to 6 to 7. It's about a young potter in the Goryeo dynasty who goes through an apprenticeship and is learning how to create these celadon pottery items. And so the students and teachers who apply to A Single Shard get a small bus grant to come to the Museum of Art and spend a day taking a tour of the Korea Gallery with the docents. And then they get to make their own little piece of celadon pottery there. They get to etch out a Korean design, lotus or any of the animals from the zodiac, and they get a piece of clay and etch it on. And we've been very successful. Multiple schools have participated. I think we can take up to about 30 students at a time. And then more food. Chuseok Day Party is upcoming. It's Saturday, September the 26th. And it's an all-day celebration of Korean Thanksgiving, our fall harvest. And there will be music, lots of food, games and crafts for young kids. You can even try on hanbok. And just to let you in on a little secret, there will be a kimchi workshop, a kimchi making workshop. Yeah, so you're the first group of people that I've told that about, so you get the exclusive offer. We're collaborating with the Brinery in town. And then this is one of my favorite parts about the Nam Center, free film screenings. And they have two series, Korea Cinema Now and the A2KIF, the Ann Arbor Korean Independent Film Festival. This year we're doing a retrospective on the Korean director Kim Gi-duk. It is not appropriate for anybody under the age of 18, unfortunately. So if you personally want to come and watch these sort of avant-garde movies, you're welcome to. And then we also have another movie, Comrade Kim Goes Flying, which will be followed with a Q&A with the director. So these are some of the events that take place at the NOM Center, either here in this building or very nearby on campus and in Ann Arbor. So I just wanted to personally thank you again for coming here and being a part of this project.